As we were discussing in the previous class, the sources of contamination of meat followed by carcass decontamination. We studied the various sources of contamination that occur at various places of processing an animal leading to the production of the meat. We discussed the outer integument as a source of contamination that includes hide, hair, fleece, and skin. We studied the gastrointestinal tract. Then we studied contaminations that occur during stunning and sticking process when meat comes in contact with physical structures, the operatives as source of contamination, equipments and utensils, and slaughterhall environment where the animal is processed. So next is vermin and pests, and lastly the chemical contamination that occurs. So these are all the various sources of contamination that occur in the slaughterhouse. Then how to deal with such contaminations? How to reduce the contamination? We cannot zero down to produce a microbe-free meat. It's not possible. It is not attainable. That's why. So what we can do is we can deal with the dirty animal. Okay, we know that the dirty animal that enters this slaughter premise and potentially contaminates. So if we can deal with that animal, probably we are going to reduce the contamination of the carcass. At some places, there is clipping process that is done. Clipping means removal of the hair. Followed by our discussion today, we are also going to discuss the workers or the operatives who contribute to the contamination during slaughter operations. For all these things, we need to follow the good hygienic practices, and we have to design the slaughterhouse in such a way that the layout and flow lines will be such that least contamination of the carcass meat occurs in the abattoir. Okay. So let us discuss one by one, dealing with the dirty animal. Much of my discussion today is from Gracie book, because if you talk about the development of the meat hygiene as a science and technology, it is mostly in the Europe and USA. So earlier, all these science related to the scientific animal slaughter, the slaughterhouse or the abattoir hygiene, and all these sanitation processes were studied in detail in the Europe and then USA. So we take them as a reference to study the carcass contamination and decontamination process scientifically. Okay, so dealing with a dirty animal, as I told you, entry of the animal which is dirty cannot be made zero, because there are many instances in which these animals they enter the slaughter premise despite the best efforts, in spite of the best management. Dirty animals gain access to the slaughterhouse. Then how to deal with them? If you can deal with them properly, probably will reduce the contamination in the slaughterhouse, thereby reducing the contamination level on the carcass meat. The operator must have procedures for screening dirty animals. Okay, there should be a procedure to know whether the animal that is coming for slaughter is clean or a dirty one. If it is dirty, to what extent it is dirty? Okay, it is very much dirty, less dirty, medium dirty, like that. If you can categorize that, obviously that's going to help you in your management. What's that management? We'll discuss later. Second component is subsequent handling. Dirty animal has come. How are you going to handle that? Are you going to reject that, or are you going to permit that? When you are going to permit? Is it in the beginning? Is it during routine slaughter process, or at the end? That decision has to be taken. How you handle that animal that has already arrived and you feel that it is a dirty. Then the hygienic dressing. Hygienic dressing, destining such animal for slaughter and taking care of all those precautions thereafter. That's what is hygienic dressing. Okay, the point number 2 and 3 are related. But whatever may be the case, whenever a dirty animal appears in the line, okay, what need to be done? First, it need to be screened out. And second thing is, it must be, in case it is permitted to be slaughtered, it should be handled accordingly. Then what are the decisions that are left with the veterinarian, official veterinarian in the slaughterhouse? The first option, okay, the first and the best option, whenever a dirty animal comes for a slaughter, is reject that animal, don't allow it to slaughter. But many times circumstances don't permit a rejection of the animal. Okay, that is why you have to take certain decisions. Okay. Why the certain animals cannot be rejected? One thing is that animal disease control. Some animal has been destined for slaughter because it is having some disease. You cannot send it back. Slaughter and use the animal, or slaughter and dispose the animal. That is the only way. Okay, that's likewise. If such animal is a dirty animal, then probably the decision becomes some more complicated. There are certain restrictions at some places, as we discussed in the previous class. There are certain cooperative or managemental rules that are country rules that restrict certain sending back of those animals. Under such circumstances, you have to take a decision that such animal must be slaughtered, but with the restrictive conditions. Animal welfare considerations. Animal is having some condition, and if you take a decision that it must not be slaughtered. Okay, we talked about the emergency slaughter, casualty slaughter, and all those things. Under such circumstances, you cannot reject the animal. You have to slaughter the animal, but you have to subsequently handle that animal in a hygienic way and dress that animal in a hygienic way. These are the responsibilities. If you take a responsibility, if you take a decision that the animal has to be slaughtered, at the same time, you are taking a responsibility to deal with that animal. Okay. The easier way to hygienically address a dirty animal is, okay, there are two things here. See, I am introducing two concepts. One concept is dry animal. Other animal is dirty wet animal. Okay, animal is dry, but it is dirty. Okay, other is the wet one. So which one is easy to handle? The dry animal is easy to handle because the wet animal poses more contamination risk to the slaughterhouse. For sheep, there are certain generalized what you can say, generalized practices that are followed across the world. Okay, the thumb rule, whether if it is a cattle, you can very well easily make out by looking into the soil that is adhered to the body. Okay, but in case of sheep, when they are wound, it's difficult to know whether they are dirty sheep or they are clean sheep. Under such circumstances, what to do? The thumb rule is, so you have to, using your hand, veterinarian with his or her hand, has to pass or rub through the underside or ventral region, abdomen, okay, the abdomen or the lower portion from sternum to the back. Okay, so you just rub your hands. You will come to know if at all the animal is dirty, it gets the dirt gets adhered to the hands. Okay, so by doing this simple testing, you'll come to know that whether animal is dirty or is a clean animal. In New Zealand, what they do is they have a common practice of washing the lambs. Okay, sheep, if it is aged one, that is known as sheep. Usually they won't slaughter these spent animals. Their practice is to specifically raise the sheep at a particular age in slaughter. That's what we call it as a lamb. Yeah, in colloquial terms, the managemental term lamb means the young one of a sheep, but here lamb means sheep itself. Sheep itself that has attained a slaughter age, but it is not a spent animal. Okay, that's what is the lamb. So what they do is, the common practice is they wash the animal prior to slaughter. And what are the implications of this? Okay, this a study indicated that if you wash the animal, they found that the visible dirt got reduced compared to the unwashed animals. But there is no guarantee that the such washing would reduce the microbial load. They found that E. coli count and aerobic plate count were not appreciably reduced. So, what I mean to say here is, washing will reduce the visible dirt, but will not ensure the better bacteriological quality. So that's why washing is debated here. Okay. At some places, there is, as I told you, there is a practice of clipping the animals prior to slaughter. Clipping means removal of the wool. The study indicated that when you see the carcass load, microbial load, with respect to the clipped animal and unclipped animal, clipped animal had significantly lower microbial counts than unclipped animals. So clipping was beneficial, while washing was guarded, because there was a reduction in the visible dirt on the animal, but bacteriologically that was not encouraging. In UK, there is a practice of clipping at the incision lines. Okay, in the slaughterhouse, you know that there are certain incisions that are taken over the skin in case of sheep. Okay, so usually they clip those incision lines and also the crutch of the animal. Okay, the rear end. So when these animals are dirty animals are clipped at the incision sites or the crutch of the animal, the producer has to pay for that. Okay, the producer has to pay for that. It is a charged service. Cattle, especially the heavily cladded cattle, heavily cladded in the sense a lot of dirt getting adhered, soil adhered to the animal body. Okay, such animals, hygiene perspective, washing such animals is a futile exercise, because one thing is that it is very much detrimental to the animal welfare, because why the animal is heavily cladded? Because it is bedridden or having some condition. If such animal you wash it, animal welfare point of view, that may not be a appreciable intervention. And second thing, even if you wash, reaching the underneath of the abdomen, legs, hooves, especially the lower abdomen, it's very difficult to reach these sites with the washing in the lineage. So washing is having you cannot say that it is a better option to deal with the dirty animals. Then what to do when you say that, when you are debating on washing the other aspects, okay, wet cleaning aspects in the abattoir. So what is the solution? Solution is supply clean animals. Whatever washing and all those things should be done at the farm itself. Washed animals only should be loaded. And when such animals are loaded, when they reach the abattoir, they will be clean. And by that time, they are dry also. When an animal is wet and a dry animal is having lesser microbial load compared to a wet animal. That is why the better practice is washing at the farm itself, not at the lineage of the habitat. There are certain commercial applications. Okay, commercial applications means washing the bovine carcass post bleeding and pre-evisceration. Okay, post bleeding means bleeding is done. Okay, sticking and bleeding is over. Pre-evisceration, organs yet to be removed. Okay, when they studied using a commercial application, using a spray, okay, spray of what? Of 1.5% of sodium hydroxide solution for 10 seconds at 65 degrees centigrade, this solution, followed by the second rinse with the sodium hypochlorite, 1 ppm free chlorine solution they used to remove the dirt on the animal body. What is the result? There was a little effect on the contaminating microorganisms. What are these contaminating microorganisms? Aerobic plate count, or aerobic bacteria, or enterobacteria. There was no much reduction after commercially subjecting the animal post bleeding pre-evisceration step. Okay. However, in the carcass, they found marked reduction of the pathogens. The pathogen concentration or the number got drastically reduced by this treatment. However, with respect to contaminants, there was no appreciable change. In some places in USA, they use chemical dehairing process of the cattle. When this step is applied between stunning and sticking, okay, the moment the animal is made unconscious, after that this process starts, and within few seconds it is over before sticking. Okay, before sticking means severing the skin and the underlying tissues there in the neck region. Okay, preparing animal for bleeding. Huh? So between that step and stunning step, okay, stunning is first and sticking is later. In between these two steps, when they applied 10% sodium sulfide solution, okay, for chemically dehair the animal, it is not carcass, it is animal, followed by 3% hydrogen peroxide rinse in a closed cabinet, means the animal that is stunned made to enter a chamber. In that chamber, these two treatments are given with the chemical dehairing process. One is 10% sodium sulfide and followed by 3% hydrogen peroxide in a closed cabinet. Then what is the result? This completely removed the dirt, pieces and hair on the animal body. There was reduction in the visible contamination. Okay. However, no decrease in the bacterial load with respect to aerobic plate count or total coliform count. Okay. It only reduced the visible dirt, but not microbial quality. With respect to microbial count, there was no significant change that was anticipated due to this chemical dehairing process. Okay. At some places, even they have used using of the surfactants. The surfactants that are detergents also, or the hides of the cattle were in the lairage just before stunning. So earlier I talked about between stunning and sticking. Now just before stunning, in the lairage itself. In the lairage itself, we apply this surfactant detergent. CPC they have used at 1%. Okay, cetyl pyridium chloride, CPC. This has reduced the E. coli O157 serotype prevalence both in the hides and the carcasses. What was the extent of reduction over the hides? From 56% to 34%. From 23% to 3%. Okay, that was the reduction. Zeroing was not achieved. Okay, it is again a study. So it is beneficial. It is beneficial if you apply the surfactant detergents such as CPC in the lairage prior to stunning. However, when it comes to the animal welfare, when it comes to the logistics, when it comes to the cost involved in the modern habitat systems, when it comes to the social acceptance by different customs and religions, so concerns remain about the chemical contamination removal processes. Okay, means decontamination using chemicals, removal of the contamination using chemicals, using detergents or other chemicals, using the commercial steps. Okay, so once this animal has been decided as a dirty animal or a clean animal, then it is made to move the further steps. When decision has been taken to slaughter that animal, okay, then it moves further in the line. Further in the line means again there are two things associated. One thing is whether to permit it now itself, or you just keep it aside and put all dirty animals together at the end. That's what is controlling the line speed. Number one, process these animals very slowly. Okay. Earlier there were 4 animals per minute. Now you decrease it to 1 animal per minute, or 1 animal per 2 minutes, depending on the amount of time that is spent in dealing with such dirty animals. There is one trimming process also. Trimming process means when you feel that such a carcass is contaminated, immediately you trim it off. Okay, just cut it and dispose. That's what it is. The trimming process that is being done. Even a X mark can also be placed when you feel that such a portion in the carcass is potentially contaminated. Okay, and even if someone sees later in the step, okay, they will feel that, oh, this is a portion that is contaminated, marked X using suitable marking systems, and that can be disposed of. Whose responsibility it is to provide the clean animals to the abattoir? It is the responsibility lies with the livestock owners, livestock producers. Okay. Second is the haulers and transporters. That is why if you don't differentiate between a good supplier I mean the person who supplies animals in a hygienic way, clean way, okay, to those who supply excessively dirty animals to the slaughterhouse, there should be differentiation. For that differentiation, the abattoirs can have the practice of giving incentives in the form of attractive ones. Okay, if you can encourage them, they will supply subsequently the cleaner animals to the abattoir, so that there is no question of such contamination occurring at the abattoir. I talked about clipping the cattle online, online in the dressing line itself. Okay, because I talked about welfare issues. When the animal is alive, then only the welfare issue will come. If the animal is being stunned and bleeding is over, then there is no question of welfare issues. You can show in the photo. You can see in the photo. Okay, so such animals can be post-stunning, post-bleeding, can be clipped online. That's one thing that could be used. However, it is not going to achieve the freedom from the microorganisms. The next important aspect is protecting meat from the worker. See, this is very important. Protecting meat from the worker means, earlier we studied in the sources of contamination, the operatives. The operatives have to wear the protective apparel that consists of the headgear, the footwear, the aprons, the gloves, the seals, and other protective clothing. Okay, starting from head to toe. Okay, the head cover, the face mask, the neck cover, the apron, the gloves. Okay, then followed by the boots, gumboots. All of them should be worn. There are 2 ways. Usually our perception is that this is going to protect the worker from the contamination or infections. That's one way, correct? But still more important role this plays is avoiding the contamination of the meat. So that's why all these are practiced wherein the personnel are trained, the personnel are made to demonstrate prior to work the skill of doing this work, and it is inspected, documented, verified, and at times the non-compliance is reported and penalty measures are imposed. That is why the operative safety, number 1, and avoiding contamination from these operatives are 2 important aspects associated with the personnel who work in the abattoir. When we say they are all wearing the apparels, PPE, personal protection equipment, what we call it as. Okay. Personal protection equipment is rather one-sided definition of this apparel. Okay. The other side, personal protection equipment, is usually when we work in the lab, we protect ourselves from contamination. That's one way. Here it is two-way function that the apparel does. The other function is avoiding the contamination of the meat. So in doing so, every day there is a clothing that is disposed of, okay, and to be laundried so that it can be made use next time. You cannot think of disposable type of such apparel every day. Okay, they are made up of usually cloth or certain sturdy polymer, which is of good quality. Okay, do not have any food safety concerns. Such material is being used, materials or material being used. These things should be laundered, means cleaned. In some of the slaughterhouses, what is practice? The practice is at the end of the work they will wash their own clothes, but it should be discouraged. Washing their own clothes at the end of the work should be discouraged. It should be given to a centralized laundry, wherein they should ensure that uniformly all these the removed apparel, they are washed, hygienically prepared, and kept ready for next day's use or next shift use by other people. Okay, especially hair nets, the covers cover the beard. Okay, the nets of the snoots, they should be taken care of. White bump caps, they are recommended, and we have to have a footwear that can be easily cleaned, okay, sanitized, and kept tidy between usages, okay, after the use and before the next use. Hands. In the slaughterhouse, all the processing occurs through either machines or the hands. Operators' hands are very much important. Okay, that is why the hand has to be frequently washed. The way you perform surgery, better is the hygiene, higher is the success rate of a case. Likewise, in the slaughterhouse, no room is kept, okay, wherein there is potential contamination from the operators. That is why even the type of the taps that are used in the slaughterhouse, they are either foot operated, knee operated, or elbow operated. Okay. Sometimes even magic eye means using certain RFID devices, something like that, sensor based. The moment you keep your hand, water should easily flow, soap should easily flow. The moment you are out of that site, there is no operation of that. Such kind of magic eyes, the smart recognition systems, they are all used. The kind of the soap that is used, it should not be hazardous chemical, number one. Number two, majority of the soaps are not bactericidal, they are only cleansers. Okay, if you can use a bactericidal soap, that is better, so that whatever the intention with which we wash the hands and the slaughterhouse, that is achieved. And such soaps should be non-perfumed in the sense they should not be scented. If they are scented, means it may impart smell to the product. That is why they are not perfumed, not scented. One study indicates that 44 degrees centigrade hand rinse water is good to reduce the microbial load and is also comfortable for the hands. Next important thing is the gloves. Different kinds of gloves are worn in the abattoir. Rubber gloves or chainmail gloves. What are these chainmail gloves? Rubber gloves, The chainmail gloves are used where the sharp machines or sharp knives are used to avoid accidental cuts or injuries to the hands or operators. Okay, These are known as the chain mail gloves. Even if the accidentally the knife touches the glove, it will not penetrate and cause the injury. Okay, so that's what is the chain mail gloves. Rubber gloves are routinely used at all places. Chain mail gloves are used very, especially at a place where there are very sharp knives are used. Okay. At times, what happens, due to the constant R&D in this hygiene area, cut-resistant polyester iron gloves are also available. That can be easily cleaned, they can be reused instead of chain mail. Chain mail are a bit difficult to clean because they are having certain locations uh, to to for the microbial hideouts. But these polymers, they are more better because they can be easily cleansed off and they are thermotolerant also, heat resistant also. Okay. Skin tight rubber latex type of gloves are also complemented with chainmail gloves. So what I mean to say is there are different kinds of gloves that are used in the abattoir. Their hygiene is of utmost importance so that from the operative's hand through these gloves, contamination of the meat should not occur. Then control of hazards from medical conditions. Medical conditions of whom? Of the operatives. Machine cannot have medical condition. It is only the people who can have medical condition. They can suffer from the running nose. They can suffer from the septic sores, wound, or they can suffer from the contagious diseases or the infectious diseases. Most importantly, the salmonella, the tuberculosis. These are all the infections the operatives can suffer. These individuals who work in these slaughterhouse must be medically fit, should not suffer from such ailments that otherwise poses risk to the public health, means through meat. That's why there must be a certification system. Okay, certification means they should provide their fitness to work and options of the food safety hazards in their GID or on the body. Okay. The control of hazards, these are 5 different steps. Number 1 is the elements include pre-employment screening using a health question. Have you suffered from any sore throat, running nose, or having the open sores, or suffered from salmonellosis, the tuberculosis, etc. The questions are asked. The person has to answer that. If the answer is no to all of them, then they have to be screened by the competent medical authority and they have to be established, demonstrated that they are not having those conditions. Number 1, oral communication by the individual. Number 2, testing in the lab. Afterwards, such an individual is first given the training. Okay, because since it is a skilled operation, the meat processing, it is a skilled operation. They need to be treated. They have to be trained. They have to be treated until the training is over and until they demonstrate their skills as a training. Okay, they should be trained, and after inducing the training to them, then they have to be assigned a specific task in the slaughterhouse. Return to work screening. Okay, when it's not that we are all human beings and we are not suffering from any infection, it's not possible. Okay, now and then during our work we suffer from running nose, we suffer from typhoid and all those things. Then such individuals should abstain himself or herself from the work. Okay, should not attend the work in the habitat. After the recovery from that particular episode, and they have to demonstrate that their absence, okay, their absence of the signs and symptoms, number 1. Number 2, laboratory test should be negative. The test is done for COVID for you, the students. Shortly, you are all appearing to the in the campus, and you have to demonstrate the COVID negative report, real-time PCR, and when you are negative, then only you are allowed to enter the premise. Okay. Even if you had some COVID some time back, then also you are allowed to enter, provided now the test is made. Just like that. When persons who suffer in between the work, okay, or say for example, 2 years over or 6 months over, the person has been employed and now has shown certain symptoms of some disease, then show the recover first after taking a medical treatment. Second is demonstrate that you are not having any illness, then they can be return to the previous work they were doing. 1, 2, 3 are very mandatory, compulsory. But fourth one is, see, refresher training. You may ask, sir, already induction training is given. Now, why you are already training is given to me? Why you want to train me again? Many times for a veterinary we do know continued veterinary education or refresher training or the some training programs we keep, and veterinary officers they come and again they get themselves trained. Why we do that? They have completed their BVS and age. Even then, why we are training them? The refresher training courses are to make them more and more competent in the profession. That is why we take the refresher training program. So, refresher training program should be taken periodically because they should not forget what is intended to be done at the slaughterhouse. Observation of operatives by the supervisors. Many times, habits are very difficult to get rid of. Even though we give induction training, even though we have screened them for the health elements, even though refresher training has been given, in spite of these things, there is a tendency in the human being to make mistakes. Okay, so there must be supervision by the supervisors to observe these operatives and look for any deviation with respect to their health or any the what we can say the vices they develop during their work that has to be rectified, and they have to be properly addressed. So what happens, if any person who has suffered from any gastroenteritis bout or episode must be excluded from duties. Okay, they should not be working in the slaughterhouse. The workers those are having the septic wounds in their body or in the most importantly the hands, they should not work. Number one, if it is a healed one or recovered one, then you take proper dressing of that. You cover that with a dressing material. Over that, you put something, the cover, protecting cover. Over that, you put the gloves, and then they can be made to work. Okay, if the lesion is small. Fitness to work questionnaire. This is given before their employment into the slaughterhouse. So we can ask a set of questions. Have you now, or have you over the last 7 days suffered from diarrhea or vomiting? If the answer is yes, no employment. Okay, wait until they recover. If the question, the answer is no, then you proceed to question number 2. Okay. At present, are you suffering from any one of these conditions? The skin trouble affecting hands, arms, or the face, boils, styles, or septic fingers, discharge from eyes, ear, gum, or mouth. If the answer is yes, don't allow. If the answer is no, then you go to the next question. Third question. Do you suffer from recurring skin or ear trouble? A recurring bowel disorder? If the answer is yes, send them back. If the answer is no, ask the next question. Have you ever had or are you known to be a carrier of typhoid or a paratyphoid? If the answer is yes, send them back. Don't employ them at all. Okay, they can be given some managerial work in the office, but not in the laboratory. Okay, if the answer is no, then you go to the next question. Fifth question. In the last 21 days, have you been in contact with anyone at home or abroad who may have been suffered from typhoid or a paratyphoid? If the answer to any question is yes, the individual should not be employed as a food handler until medical advice is followed. Okay. So there should be no, all 5 no's. When the answer is no, then you can induct them for the training. The World Health Organization has brought some document on surveillance and management procedures for food handling personnel. The technical report series 785, published in the year 1989. That includes the pre-employment and subsequent routine medical examination of food handlers. Okay, so that need to be followed. The most effective measures with respect to operatives in the slaughterhouse are educate, create awareness, train, retrain, refresh their work, and encourage them. Encourage in terms of awards, rewards, incentives, okay, or promotions, bonus, like that, so that more and more people get indulged in the good practices that you aim at. The good hygiene practices. When we talk about good hygiene practices are applicable at every step of the that is followed in their every step. Good hygiene practice. Okay, but I have highlighted here some of the practices. Okay, one practice is that since meat cannot be obtained without the knives, okay, the hygienic use of the knife, the scabbard, and the steel that is used to sharpen the knife. Okay, the long stick that is used to sharpen the knife is known as the steel. The scabbard. Okay, their hygiene is very important, and they found that one of the study they found that there is a time temperature combination that can be used. If the immersion time of this knife in a knife sterilizer is for, say for example, just a second, keep it for a moment and remove. That's for a second. The temperature is 75 is good. Okay. The immersion temperature following a pre-rinse in 40 degrees running water, then it is 75 degrees centigrade. Okay. The first one, 82 degrees centigrade, directly putting the knife into the knife sterilizer without pre-rinsing that in the tap water. Okay, the difference between column 2 and column 3. Okay, 1 second. If you immerse the knife for 5 seconds, you may ask one question, sir, if it is a 20 second, how much 20 seconds can we wait? No. You leave that knife, you take the other knife. There are many knives that have been kept in this within this slaughterhouse in the knife sterilizer. No? Knife sterilizer is a cabinet. In that, many knives have been kept. Okay, and they are kept in a successive usage sequence. When they have been kept in a successive usage sequence, you take a one which is already sterilized. You did not wait, just take it off. That's what. Not this knife, other knife. Okay, if you have to take the same knife, you have to wait for 20 seconds. That's a time waste. So, time temperature you see. If it is 1 second, 82 degrees centigrade without pre-rinsing of the knife. If it is 20 seconds or more, 65 degrees is sufficient. So, depending on the exposure time, the temperature of the knife sterilizer can be maintained. If it is accompanied by a pre-rinsing of the knife with a running water, tap water, which is heated to 40 degrees, then there is lesser temperature that can also be kept. So this is the time temperature combination that is used for the knife sterilizers. The last and important component is layout and flow lines in this slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse, so just imagine, take for example the poultry slaughter. When we talk about the poultry slaughter, there is one bird receiving area, there is a stunning and sticking area, bleeding area, then there is a scalding area. After the scalding, it will go to the the skinning, if it is defeathering process. After defeathering, there are two varieties of chicken, with skin, without skin. Okay, if it is without skin, removal of the skin process. If it is with skin, no problem. Then it will go to evisceration, all the organ is removed. Then there is carcass washing. After carcass washing, the carcass chilling, and after chilling, the next step is the holding of the carcass. This is how the poultry is processed. These steps, okay, that are there in the poultry processing can be conveniently divided for the ease of management as the unclean operations and clean operations. At some places, even they categorize into three. One is clean operations, unclean operations, and dirty operations. Dirty operations are those where dirt is produced. Say, for example, animal whites feces, that is a dirty operation. Okay, animal's blood is removed, non-edible. Okay, dirty operation. Up to this, they call it as a dirty operations. From this step to evisceration end, they call it as unclean operations because the viscera is unclean. That's why it has to be processed properly. And carcass contamination should not occur due to the enteric contamination. Okay, that's why. Then afterwards, once the carcass go to a chilling and further steps, there are clean operations where there is portioning, making the wholesale or the retail cuts, further processing leading to the making of some value-added products. These are all further processing. So the layout and the flow lines should be such that, okay, there should not be any functional contact between the cleaner areas and the areas where the contamination is expected, especially the green offal rooms. Offals are likely to get a lot of microbial load. That's why there should not be excess between clean and unclean area. All movement of air, water, the drainage, the personal operatives, everything. Okay, personal and operatives should not be allowed, but visitors. Okay, all this movement is controlled from clean to unclean. Okay, whenever you visit a slaughterhouse, first they will take you to a clean area, lastly to the unclean or the dirty area, and then exit. That's the way they will destine your visit to a slaughterhouse. During the breaks, because abattoirs runs different shifts, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, like that. Okay, there can be 8 into 3, 24 hours. There can be 3 shifts in slaughterhouse, non-stop. Okay, so during the shift break or within a shift also, you know that because human, no, they get fatigued and there is a lot of strain, so the rest is given. These are known as the breaks. The way it is given to the children, no? Between class 1 and class 2, lecture 1 and lecture 2, there is 10 minutes break to go to washroom, to have a light snack, or to have just a kind of what you can say, rejoice in between that, so that you can go to the next class. That's what is known as the break. During breaks, precautions have to be taken that the people from unclean area will not enter the clean area. Their lavatories should be different, their hand washing should be different, their clothing should be different. In a typical abattoir, they are all color coded, different colors. Okay, there is no universal acceptance on these colors, but depending on the requirement, okay, they have their green color, yellow color, red color, like that colors they will have. This should avoid the cross contamination between the different sections. Proper waste bins are placed within the abattoir. These waste bins are evacuated routinely. Okay, and they are sanitized and kept properly. These are the things. People should not indulge in playing football or other kinds of activities during these breaks. They should be responsible, and until the shift is over, no operative is allowed to indulge in such activities. Okay, in spite of all these things, at some places, ideally speaking, there should not be any contamination has occurred. Now we want to remove any contamination. Okay, we want to remove any contamination that has occurred on the carcass. This is known as the carcass decontamination process. In some countries it is permitted, in some countries it is not permitted. Okay, so carcass decontamination is a process wherein even if some low numbers of the pathogens that are there remaining on the carcass, they are inactivated at the site of their lodgement. This process is known as carcass decontamination. And this concept of carcass decontamination, it started somewhere in Canada, USA, and Scotland, because there was emergence of E. coli 157H7 due to beef. Okay, that's why this carcass decontamination process started. In 1990s, okay, there was large mortalities. Okay, especially the children and elderly people due to consumption of contaminated beef, that too burgers and other meat products due to this serotype E. coli 157H7. That has triggered the usage of this technique, that is carcass decontamination process. Okay, and as meat safety assurance measures they started, so there was some more awareness on this. That was extended to even Salmonella, Listeria. Okay, and in order to improve the meat safety, especially in the USA, the FSIS suggests that the carcass must achieve at least one of these uh, carcass decontamination processes prior to the chilling of the carcass. Okay, what are those? Number one is hot water. Number two is organic acid spray. Number three is use of antimicrobial agents. Four, hydrogen peroxide. Fifth, trisodium phosphate. Sixth, chlorinated. Okay. So in Europe, for example, they permit potable water. Okay, which is approved, means that meets the requirements of the EU guidelines, EC guide directives. Okay. Let us discuss what is the science behind using the water. Now everything is over. Stunning, bleeding, evisceration, deskinning, or scalding, all those things are over now. Carcass has to be decontaminated prior to chilling. These are the agents, and in some countries, these regulations are country specific. Okay, one of the in USA, the USDA FSIS. Okay, it states that, it suggests that carcass has to be subjected for one of these 6 treatments. Okay, now we are discussing the water. You can use both hot water or the cold water. If it is a hot water, no issue. It itself is a sanitizer. If it is a cold water, then it has to be having some. It has to have some chemical sanitizers. They say that spray washing with water at 12 degrees centigrade at 6 bar pressure for 20 degrees centigrade is beneficial. That's with respect to cold water. When it is cold. In USA, they use steam vacuum sterilization, wherein water at 88 degrees centigrade under vacuum with a steam at 45 psi pressure. That is the practice. Other steam sterilization processes, low pressure steam at 85 degrees centigrade for 8 seconds. Okay, this is what we call it as carcass pasteurization. Pasteurization is a process of heating to a accepted time temperature combination, and just pasteurization of the meat in surface pasteurization has reduced the E. coli count by 1 to 2 logs. So that was the one that was attained. And it also grossly dislocates the dirt and other things if it is adhering to the surface of the carcass. Pig carcass, prior to evisceration, they used water at 85 degrees centigrade for 20 seconds. So to get rid of the surface bacteria. So this is a steam sterilization chambers, wherein the infeeding of the carcass is done like this. It is washed properly, and outfeeding goes to further chilling section. Trimming is other process. Trimming means wherever I told you, it has to be marked X or has to be removed the moment the operator will see that such a portion has touched the ground or is having a potentially contamination that has to be trimmed off. So trimming also reduces contamination to a great extent. There are certain chemicals that are used to achieve the decontamination process. One is chlorine. Second is organic acids such as acetic acid, lactic acid, citric acid, fumaric acid. Hydrogen peroxide, antimicrobials such as niacin, bacteriocin, lactoferrin, or phosphates such as trisodium phosphates. These are all the chemical agents, food grade, that are applied on the carcass at very low concentration, and they do not have any residual issues with respect to the meat, but they attain the elimination of the pathogens from the carcass. This is what we call carcass decontamination. Okay. However, the efficacy of decontamination, it is based on the concentration, the contact time, the tissue type, length of time that has elapsed between the application and the retaining of the carcass, temperature, method of delivery. These are all the factors that influence. One study where they used the chlorine at 20 ppm concentration on the beef at 16 degrees centigrade, and it was applied for 10 to 60 seconds. No appreciable impact on the microbial count was observed. Even chlorine has been used at a concentration of 350 concentration, 350 ppm concentration. So when we use these chemicals, the different countries, they differ based on certain studies in that particular territory. The acids, these are all edible acids. They will reduce the microbial count, especially the pathogens such as E. coli, O157H7. Acids are applied at 1.5% level at 20 and 55 degrees centigrade. Okay, usual doing that. In some countries, they are permitted, especially say, for example, lactic acid is permitted in EU, 2 to 5% solution. Either it is sprayed or misted. Even some of the HACCP principles also, HACCP system also encourage use of such acids. The trisodium phosphate, TSP, that is also used to reduce the microbial load. However, the phosphates that come out, once the phosphate is trisodium phosphate is sprayed on the carcass, it comes out as a drain, okay, and it enters the ETP, and then it is potential environmental pollutant. So application is okay. It is going to reduce the salmonella, say for example, in one study from 9.5% to 0% in the carcass that has achieved trisodium phosphate. But the other aspects associated with environmental pollution are also associated with such chemicals. In some places, okay, antimicrobial treatments are not permitted. Okay. Even if they are permitted, they have to be in strict compliance with the sanitary requirements. So the countries, the places, they differ with respect to the usage of such chemical contaminants. Okay. There is a practice of using bacteriophages. Bacteriophages are regarded as GRAs, generally recognized as safe. Okay, GRAs category. They are not associated with any disease in the humans, but they attack the bacteria. These are phages are nothing but the viruses. No, bacteriophage treatment is there since beginning. They have been known to affect the proliferation or the growth of the organisms such as Listeria monocytogenes, E. coli, Campylobacter jejuni, etc. But that has not come to a commercial level so far. It is still in the R&D level only. Last is, last but one, ultraviolet light. UV is an antibacterial. Okay, short wavelength UV light. It attacks the bacterial DNA, thereby preventing its multiplication. Okay, the surface sanitization is done for 10 minutes in a chamber where there is bombarding of the UV light. followed by modified atmospheric packaging. Pulsed high intensity light is also used at wavelength between 170 and 2600 nanometers at intensity of 50 joules per square centimeter to reduce the microbial load. But at some places it gives a cooked appearance on the meat. It's the limitation. So likewise, the various kinds of carcass decontamination processes are used. Whether a particular technology is being used in a